Good evening and welcome. I'm here in a very wonderful position today because all three sides of this evening are part of me. Natarani, of course, as you know, but I love textiles. And Darshan and the work she has done with textiles, the work my family has done with textiles, the work that I continue doing with textiles is something very close to my heart. And then, of course, MAPIN and I started MAPIN and we've published the book. So that's all three of my sides coming together, so welcome. It's very special today because in whatever I know, कारीगर અને કલાકાર મળીને કામ નથી કરતા, કરવું જોઈએ. And in this, Darshan has brought both together, and I think it's wonderful. And as much as you, I look forward to this. Natarani rules, please switch off your phone. And if you are shooting anything, then please don't use a flash. And may I present Darshan Shah, Weaver Studio, the person behind this entire exhibition, the book, and everything else. Darshan, welcome.
Namaskar. Good evening to everybody and a very warm welcome. I consider my part a part of this, very much a part of this evening, and therefore I extend this very warm welcome to each one of you and thank you for taking out the time to come here. And you must be wondering what the connection is. So it's truly a joy to be here in Ahmedabad, a city that thanks to Malika, to Natarani's team, and for welcoming us so graciously, to Bipin Bhai of MAPIN Publications for his partnership and his support, to Jayashree Lalbhai for her kind support so silently and with such solid conviction that has made this evening possible. To Crafts Council of Ahmedabad for their facilitating the craft persons for this evening and having them here on stage to join with our musicians from Bengal. Thank you. I am Darshan Shah, founder trustee of the Weaver Studio Resource Center and the founder of Weaver Studio Kolkata. And for over 3 decades, my journey has been rooted in Bengal, in preserving, documenting, and reinterpreting its extraordinary textile traditions. There have been long threads and connections between Bengal and Gujarat, and from the embroidered silk kolchas of the 16th and 17th centuries, made in Cambay and Satgaon for Portuguese patrons, to Rabindranath Tagore's visit to this very city in 1878, where he stayed at Shahi Mahal, and wrote his first poem, Boli O Amar Gola Bala. Those cultural crossings deepened when his nephew, Shaumendranath Tagore, married Srimati Hathi Singh, giving rise to a dialogue that led to Shantiniketan Batiks into the Hathi Singh collection, a significant part of our upcoming project, Sarong to Sari. Rare art collections of the Tagore legacy and Shantiniketan reside at the Kasturbhai Lalbhai Museum and other venues, prestigious venues in Ahmedabad. Our recent project, Textiles from Bengal, a shared legacy, brought together scholars, collectors, and craftspeople to explore textile heritage of the Bengal Delta from the 14th to the 20th century. What began as a conversation grew into a symposium, an exhibition, a book that has now traveled from Kolkata to Delhi to the UK, tracing the living legacy of Bengal handlooms, and it is here this evening. This evening we continue that journey through 2 encounters. The documentary Textiles of the Bengal Delta, Epar Opar, Beyond Borders, that moves across rivers, borders, and time, and one size fits all, a live performance where music and craft meet in a shared rhythm. Thank you for being here to celebrate this dialogue between craft, music, and memory, and to witness Bengal's and Gujarat's creative worlds weave together once more. Now, to introduce the book, I would have liked Bipin Bhai to do it, but he says that I should do it, because at all the other venues, he's been very generous with his time and attention to promote this book. To introduce the book this evening, I will not do it in my own words, but I will read a few reflections from its editors, whose voices best illuminate its vision and spirit. We had Sonia Ashmore from London, UK, ex-V&A curator, who was one of our editors. She says, it's been a privilege for her to be involved in the development of textiles from Bengal, a shared legacy. Not only did I learn much from the contributions of so many authors from different backgrounds, but I have also had the pleasure of working with a devoted and knowledgeable team from Weaver Studio. I've learned about how the changing course of Bengal's rivers affected its economy and trade, and the astonishing variety of skills of its textile craft workers, about their patrons and customers, about their song and the stories woven and embroidered into cloth, and about the interaction of Bengal with the wider world through its great variety of textiles. Seen as a whole, the book brings home the fundamental role of handmade textiles in the culture, community, wealth and self-identity of that great region of Greater Bengal. Niaz Zaman from Dhaka, Bangladesh, our second contributor and editor. I commend Darshan Shah for her initiative in planning Textiles from Bengal, a shared legacy. Apart from including textile arts of both Bengals, the book explores how these textiles reached different lands as prized objects. The influence of British on Bengal textiles and vice versa has also been amply discussed in this book. The book has also explored areas which, as far as I know, have not been discussed in many publications. Perhaps of special importance is the inclusion of old maps, oral histories, the maker's voice, and more. We have 34 contributing experts, 3 editors, 15 catalogue entries, and a committed publisher, MAPIN, have worked to make this publication an award-winning publication. Last but not the least, I have Dr. Tirthankar Roy from the London School of Economics, who says Textiles from Bengal, a shared legacy, is a groundbreaking book and the beginning of a wider project that brings together scholarly research and public engagement to highlight Bengal's textile legacy. Covering the period from the 16th century to 1947, it shows how Bengal's fabrics influenced British industry, international fashion, and artisan livelihoods. The book is richly illustrated and includes writing from historians, curators, and designers. It blends serious research and engaging stories, revives forgotten traditions, and connects historical archives with present-day craft production. Researchers from Europe, India, United States, Bangladesh, and other places have worked together, making it a model for international and cross-disciplinary textile studies. It renews interest in artisanal skills and helps ask, what is the relevance of artisanal traditions in the present times? Recently, the book was discussed at public events, exhibitions, workshops in India and the UK, showing again how well the subject helps to understand our own times. It's a great honor and privilege to call Srimati Jayashree Lalbhai on stage, our very special guest for this evening. Let's put our hands together for her, our host Malika Sarabhai, and our publisher Bipin Bhai Shah to join us to launch this book, Textiles from Bengal, a shared legacy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. For this wonderful designing and this publication, and just a word from you. Thank you.
Working with Darshan, this was our first experiment, and It is something that we have also learned, having published another 350 books before this. This is something that we realized that dedicated authors and institutions like Artisans, it was quite incredible to work with her and her group of authors. Thank you, Darshan.
May we please have the documentary? Thank you.
Muslin finer than the morning mist. Jamdanis woven like poetry. Silks that gleamed like liquid gold. And Katha, where every stitch carried memories. These textiles adorned emperors, queens and courts across continents. By the 1700s, the land contributed nearly 12% of the world's GDP. Its wealth and artistry unrivaled. A place whose looms shaped global fashion, whose craft defined an era. This was Bengal.
These traditions and practices have been traveling through time.
When I buy a sari, I try to see what history it has.
We can get a glimpse of the past.
It's for each one of us to understand that history is important. What is at the grassroots is important. What is past is very important.
Through this practice, the way they are experiencing time, we can also experience time backward.
The textiles of Bengal, which used to clothe the world at one point of time.
যখন আর্থিক অবস্থা খুব খারাপ ছিল তখন আমরা শিখেছি হাতের কাজ পাকা এটা সেটা করতাম, সেগুলো তো আর এখন আর হচ্ছে না।
এই দুর্দিনের জন্যই আমার টাঙ্গাইল শাড়িতে শিল্পীগুলো এটা সব অন্য রাস্তায় চলে যাচ্ছে।
দুর্ভাগ্য আমাদের, এটা নিয়ে সরকার কিন্তু কোনো মাথা ঘামালো না।
সময় ছিল, সুযোগ ছিল, শুধু একটু শুভ ইচ্ছের দরকার ছিল।
তারা এক কথা বলে গেল, মডার্ন টেকনোলজি তোমাদের নিতে হবে, এটাকে অস্বীকার করলে হবে না।
It's one of the worst things that had happened to India. Absolutely.
পাওয়ার লুমকে তোমাদের অ্যাডাপ্ট করতে হবে, নাহলে মরো তোমরা।
যেটা হচ্ছে সেটা হচ্ছে শিল্পটার সর্বনাশ হচ্ছে।
So what really happened to all of this? Why are we in the state currently? It's whether it's West Bengal we're talking about or Bangladesh we are talking about. Why are we in the state that we are? The changes that came about, what really impacted all of this? Whether it was the Indigo Mutiny, or it was the Bengal famine, or it was the migration, or it was the Swadeshi movement, or it was all these people who came in, the Portuguese came, then the Danish and Dutch came, powers that came in, the influences that happened. And what really happened in this entire geographical change, this political change, cultural, this socio-economic change, that impacted the textiles of Bengal.
In the 17th century, the English East India Company first set foot in Bengal as mere traders drawn by its promise of wealth. Their arrival was not political, only commercial. But as they discovered the unmatched artistry and resources of Bengal, their ambitions deepened. Slowly, trade turned to control.
The world came to us because we were prolific, open to trade,
and wanted to make things happen.
Indian textiles demonstrated the varieties of cotton wear that you can produce and the varieties of colors that you can apply on them.
So 17th, 18th century, you had these huge movements and migrations of people from rural parts of Europe to the cities. What happens in that context is that fashion becomes a very important aspect.
How did we get Jamdani at the border areas? So how did Nakshi Katha come into a repertoire into the Bengal Katha?
বাংলাদেশে বিভিন্ন রকমের নকশি কাঁথা আছে। জামালপুর তো একটা হয়ে গেছে, কিন্তু জামালপুরের কাঁথা একটু অন্যরকম। চাঁপাইনবাবগঞ্জে 3 রকমের কাঁথা, ফরিদপুরে আগে একরকম কাঁথা হতো, যশোরে একরকম কাঁথা হতো।
The kind of figuration, depiction of rural landscapes, everyday objects, people that you might find, say, in Punjab in the Bagh or the Pulkari. And then you have these absolutely distinct, repertoires of design and motifs and patterns, like, say, the human figures in the Baluchari, which you don't find anywhere else really in the same way.
In many parts of Europe, in major museums, the Victoria and Albert Museum has a substantial collection of muslin goods from India. That's Bengal. Muslins are primarily a Bengal product, at least the ones that became global.
The sheer fineness of the fabric, the sheer transparency of them, the whiteness and the shades of whiteness. If the Inuits had so many names for white.
আমাদের একটা জিনিস বুঝতে হবে যে জামদানি কিন্তু কোনো ডবি বা জ্যাকার্ড কৌশলগত তাঁত নয়, এটা সিম্পলি 2 ঝাপের একটা তাঁত।
Dyes, textiles can be so powerful in a way that it can move a community, it can move a country, it creates the entire geopolitics of this entire world.
In 1757 came a defining moment, the Battle of Plassey. The last Nawab of Bengal was defeated by Robert Clive of the East India Company. This single battle shifted the course of history, giving the British political control over Bengal.
In the beginning it was okay. It used to come as a bodyguard, it used to buy. When they started settling all these factors in different places, that's when the torture and all that began. Especially the Gomustans and Thikadars. And the weavers they were called Boka. Why? Because they were very simple people. They could weave such marvel and the salary was so low, but they didn't mind.
What they went through as a community, the hurt and the pain, the marks were so deep that they never spoke about it.
Where India is located is a major producer of dyeing material. So the color use tradition is extremely well developed here. There are lots of dye agents that you find.
Like, say for instance, the indigo color used almost like an exchange, like gold, so it was called blue gold. It really changed the whole politics of the entire world because people wanted to have control on the indigo, and that's why the Bengal indigo revolt happened, where they protested against the British, and although they were mercilessly killed and they were tortured, but still they didn't plant a seed of indigo.
It was the spiritual and philosophical need to bring in things which can have different possibilities. And indigo is something which you cannot control mechanically. No? You have to use your senses to dye. You have to use your eyes, your smell, you have to hear indigo, you have to taste it. And these senses are something which is endangered. I picked natural dye because I wanted to use indigo, talk about it because it's one of the oldest dye we have used, human being.
In the late 18th century, Britain was already experimenting with different types of looms. Some of them are much faster looms, some of them are spinning machines which are much faster, which could produce hanks of yarn at the same time. The newspaper letter from, I think, 1820s, a Bengali woman who is saying that, when my husband died and I was quite young with children, And I was advised by neighbors and well-wishers that you can take up spinning because many other women were doing it.
And she started spinning. And the weavers used to come. Why she didn't have to go to the market. One day it stopped. She wondered what happened. She went to the market. Then she saw
that the English yarn had come into the market. They were cheaper, they were finer. Weavers wanted that product, so they were not coming to her anymore. And then she ends with the message that if I am worse off, how much more worse off will be the English spinners, the women, my counterparts in England, who are suffering probably much more than I am.
the killing. Poor thing. So it all stopped when the Manchester Yard came. That was very sad, very sad. And not only that, they used to get the designs of the border, these colonial people, done by our weavers, and they used to learn the technique, and then they were producing the same borders in the mill and sending it here. So this is the way they ruined our textile trade.
When I work with the weavers, I get inspired by the skill they know, which has been inherited by them from their forefathers, by the history like indigo. When Gandhiji called for Satyagraha movement and boycotted all foreign goods, the weavers would spin and weave their own fabric, and that became the symbol of the freedom struggle, the khadi, the khaddar.
But the other bigger impact was creating an interest in indigenous tradition. A large number of people became interested in knowing how ordinary artisans, peasants lived, how they worked, what they did, what they earned, what they consumed. And as part of that, quite a lot of studies were done of handloom weavers, more probably in Bengal than elsewhere.
Fantastic things were worn at that time in Shantipur. Even saris, one side gold, one side silver. That kind of saris used to be. They didn't need any cotton or silk yarn with golden thread and they're called Kalavati saris. They were so beautiful, but they all went abroad. Everything went abroad. How they have exploited us.
This classic novel by Tagore, Ghoribaire, which is a movement to boycott foreign textiles. That was quite extensive, and it was again an extremely powerful moment for Bengal.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
1947, the moment of freedom, but with a wound that would never heal. The Ratcliffe line cut through Bengal like a blade, dividing land, families and traditions overnight. What was once a shared fabric of culture and craft was torn apart into two nations, India and East Pakistan. Weavers fled homes, artisans struggled to stitch life back together.
What is not being documented, it's time to document. How these people were affected, what happened really, how the skills got transferred.
আমার টাঙ্গাইল যে জেলাটা এখন টাঙ্গাইলের পাশে আশোকপুর গ্রাম, পিসি সরকারের বাড়ি ছিল, তার পাশে আমার বাড়ি ছিল। যখন সকালে উঠি বাবা দেখি কান্না করছে, তখন আমার 9 বছর বয়স। তাকে ওই বাড়ির লোক, ঘর আসে লোক নেই, একটা লোকও নেই, আর সব ইন্ডিয়া চলে এসেছে। পরের দিন দেখছে আর দুবারই নেই। তারপর দেখছে প্রায় এরকম করে গ্রামটা ফাঁকা হয়ে গেল। তখন বাবা দেখলো যে এই বাচ্চা নিয়ে আমি কি করে থাকবো। তখনও বাবা এই দেশ আসার জন্য পাড়ি দিল।
আমাদের যখন বলছি স্বর্ণযুগ, তখন ফুলিয়াতে প্রায় 60-65 হাজার মতো তাঁত চলত। এখন সম্ভবত 5%ও চলে না।
The change of ownership of one of the most populated and poorest parts of the world is now being confirmed.
Yeah, the GI, especially when it was introduced, the geographical indication, it that's when it started separating the two borders, what happened there and what happened here. My entire point is that we need to think beyond borders. Because what has happened is that every person there who's got affected has a backstory to tell. Are we really listening to that story?
পারলুমে আমার এই সুতোই করেছে, সুতো না, সেটা হচ্ছে কি আমাদের একদম তুলোর থেকে সুতো, আর ওদের যে সুতোটা তৈরি হচ্ছে হাফ পলিস্টার আর হাফ তুলো দিয়ে তৈরি করা, ওটা পানি করতে হয় না, হ্যাঁ ওটা ঢোক করে কোম্পানি থেকে বেরিয়ে আসতো ওই মালদের তৈরি করতে।
তখন আস্তে আস্তে হ্যান্ডলুম পিছিয়ে যেতে লাগলো, আর পাওয়ারলুম বেশ কিছু তাঁতিকে মহাজনরা টেনে নিল পাওয়ারলুমের অপারেটর হিসাবে, আর কিছু তাঁতি অন্য পেশার দিকে ঝুঁকে গেল।
Every day, if they can work, they earn. The day they don't work, they don't earn. It is very, very simple. So they want to earn on a regular basis. So they need work throughout the year.
খুব দুঃখের গল্প আমাদের, আজকে আমরা এই পরে এসে নিঃস্ব। সরকার আমাদেরকে সিটিজেন দিয়েছে, কিন্তু সেভাবে সিটিজেন দেয়নি, ওই কাগজটাই পাওয়া গেছে।
আমাদের তাঁতিদেরকে যেমন শিল্পী বলা হতো, আর তাদের হাতের কাজটাই ছিল আসল।
Everything is by hand, whether it's dyeing the yarn, dyeing the fabrics, hand block printing, steaming, processing, making the dyes, mixing them, to tie dyes, to weaving, to hand painting, to tailoring, everything is by hand. The mission statement came from that use as many hands as possible.
আর এই হাতের স্পর্শ ছাড়া এখন যে তাঁতি যারা আছে তাদেরকে তাঁতিও বলা যাবে না, তাদেরকে আমরা বলি সুইচ অপারেটর।
পারলুমে আমি বিশ্বাস করি না শাড়ি হয় না, ওটা আমার বাবা বলতো কাপড় আর চোপড়, আমার কাছে ওটা চোপড় মনে হচ্ছে এখন।
আজকে আমি এই 65 বছরে দাঁড়িয়ে আমাদের এই কাজ যে শিখতে আসবে এরকম আগ্রহ আর কেউ করেনি, আগে অনেক ছেলে এসছে কাজ শিখতে।
The local terminologies are disappearing because everything is being written in English. That is good, not at the expense of the traditional terms. Uski upeksha nahi honi chahiye na, because uske sath a lot of subtleties are lost also of the materials, of the traditional systems of doing things. It's the vernacular that needs a resurgence at the same time.
4 জোর 22, 2 জোর সমান, পরে 2 সাইডে 2 পাকড়ি জোর, পরে ভিতরে 4 জোর বাহির, 4 জোর ভিতর, 2 জোর বুন্নাখার বাড়বো, মাঝখানে লট বাইর কইরা 2 সাইডের পাকড়ি 4 জোর বুন্না আবার খার বাড়বো। 27 বার পোর্শনে গেলে, সেগমেন্টে গেলে তখন এই ফুল তৈরি হয়। এরকম যত জামদানি নকশার মোটিভ আছে প্রত্যেকটা সেকশনে আলাদা করে এই ধরনের একটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ তাদের মেমোরিতে থাকে। পৃথিবীতে খুব কম বয়ন শিল্প আছে এই মানের যেখানে এই ধরনের বলি শ্রুতির মাধ্যমে মেমোরাইজড হয় এবং নকশাগুলি তৈরি হতে থাকে।
It's very important to continue this legacy. It's very important to make sure that as many hands as possible are used. That can only happen with handcrafting, and that can only happen in a country like India, which has such great handcrafting and such great numbers that wherever the world is looking today, it's looking towards India, because we still have it. We have the skill, we have the craftsmanship, we have the dedication, we have the knowledge. We have people who want to slow down their lives, who want to learn weaving, who want to sit and embroider. Keeps our legacy going, our textile legacy, our textile techniques. Besides farming, the second largest industry is textile. So I believe that if we continue to work at this and build the awareness and make people understand that it's no longer just a craft, and it's actually luxury to be able to have a textile like this on your body.
Right after we are born, the very connection which we get is with a piece of cloth. You are being washed, cleaned, processed, and wrapped. And this is a bond which exists until we die.
It's subtle. At the same time, it's sexy. You need to be sexy.
It's just too rich a tradition to vanish. It's going to survive and continue in a different way.
Unless you have the stories and the intangibles with it, उसमें रस नहीं होता है. So these two things have to be protected together, and this is happening in a big way across the country.
We also have this very amazing knack for actually taking things, making them really relevant, successful. That's really in our DNA, we're a trading subcontinent.
All the top designers from all over the world, especially Italian and the European designers, the French and the American designers, are all coming to India to get their handwork done, because we have the skill. We have the skill set at a price which is affordable. So that's the magic of India, is that the numbers.
Ultimately, we have to change, and in order to sustain this earth, in order to sustain the livelihood, handlooms, handmade, natural dyes, this is the solution.
This integrity we want to carry forward. We don't want to spoil it.
And it's a very important value. It's about sincerity, it's about honesty with your work. And these are timeless values that are woven in the fabric of human beings around the world and civilizations.
Checked in Kolkata, and then we transferred it here, and I find that the lip sync and the imagery was not matching. My sincere apologies. There was some technical error, and we hope to correct it once again. So thank you for being generous with letting us have that glitch. Now for the exciting part of this evening, an introduction to One Size Fits All. Good evening once again, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce One Size Fits All, a unique performance conceived by the award-winning Sarod maestro, composer, the storyteller Soumik Datta, an artist whose work bridges tradition with experimentation. Soumik has been honored with the Aga Khan Award, the Eastern Eye ACTA Award, and the Indian Global Award for his distinctive contribution to music and culture. One Size Fits All brings together two creative worlds that have always been in conversation, craft and music. It is neither a concert nor a craft demonstration, but a living dialogue between rhythm and repetition, sound and gesture, the warp and the weft of the creation itself. Inspired by his time in the weaving villages of West Bengal, Soumik translates the mathematical precision of handloom weaving and the emotional resonance of color and texture into a new musical language. In his hands, the pulse of looms becomes melody, the tension of the threads becomes rhythm, and the act of weaving becomes a form of music. Joining him on stage this evening are Sayee, Rakshith on violin, Debjit, Patitundi on tabla, and Sumesh Narayanan on Mridangam, each adding a distinct voice to his ensemble of sound. Together they create a seamless dialogue between structure and improvisation, tradition and modernity. But the magic of one-size-fits-all extends beyond music. The stage tonight becomes a living studio where musicians and artisans share space and time and rhythm. As Soumik and his ensemble play, a group of extraordinary craftspeople will create textiles and print life before your eyes, their movement and gestures responding instinctively to the flow of music. We thank them all for coming to, they are from Ahmedabad and other places in Gujarat, and for giving their time and for understanding in such a short time this language and this concept that we presented to them, and they volunteered to be part of this. So thank you to each one. You will see Afzal Chakchaktawala bringing alive the intricate art of hand block printing, Sharmishtha Patel adding embellishments with quiet precision, Sunil, Jagdish, Chitara painting with lyrical ease, Vanita, Kartik, Chauhan shaping delicate embroidery that seems to breathe with the music, and Abni spinning with her box charkha. Together, their collaboration transforms the stage into a loom where sound becomes thread, color becomes rhythm, and the very act of making becomes part of a shared composition. The beat of the tabla mirrors the strike of the block. The sweep of the brush finds its echoes in the glide of the Sarod strings. One size fits all, above all, a celebration of connection, of how the handmade and the performed, the tactile and the auditory, came together to tell one story and have come together this evening. It reminds us that both music and craft are born of rhythm, repetition, and the human urge to create beauty that endures. As we witness this dialogue between music, craft, and movement, we are reminded that creation in all its forms is an act of listening to one another, to tradition, and to the pulse of the present moment. Please join us in welcoming Soumik Datta and his ensemble as they take on this stage and take us on this incredible, remarkable, experimental journey where music and craft become one.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Great. How are you? Great. It's lovely to have all of you here. Thank you for joining us on this warm evening. But at least it's not raining and we're outside, surrounded by sounds of the city and the sky above us, and some new sounds that we'll share with you now, and some lovely things to see while you listen to us. This journey started maybe 20, 25 years ago when I first met Darshan Shah, who is, besides all the accolades that we know her for, she is someone very, very dear to me. Someone who has been part of my journey, has supported me, has been my guide, my mentor, and in many ways, my godmother. And what she's done with Weaver Studio is incredible. Watching it grow and seeing how the principles that she stood by 25 years ago have never really shifted. And that is something inspiring. So please put your hands together for Darshan Shah. About a year and a half ago, I was curious as to where do these clothes come from? Because she'd always gift me these kurtas like this one that I'm wearing. Lovely pieces. It's not my birthday or anything. It's just, here's a kurta. And for you to wear on stage. And I was very curious, it's where are they coming from? Who actually made them? I mean, that question came much later, and I'm sorry that it did. But yeah, where are they coming from was my first question. And Fulia is a place in West Bengal where there are weavers' villages, families of weavers teaching their children, grandparents teaching parents, teaching children. And the sound of weaving and those machines can be heard all around those villages. It's beautiful. And I was fortunate to visit and watch and observe. And while I was there, watching men and women tirelessly work under the West Bengal sun, it occurred to me that what they are keepers of are patterns. They're keepers of patterns. Each one of them a unique DNA of what makes India, India. And in that moment I realized that in so many ways music does the same. Music is all about patterns, unique DNAs to rags, to melodies that you hear echo around the country. And somewhere in there, I was like, there's something around discovering what are the patterns in music that can be found in the clothes that you and I wear. So that's what we're here today. I'd like to start by introducing everyone here on stage. On block printing, Afzal Lalbhai.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Afzal Lalbhai. My craft is Saudagari hand block printing craft. It is one of the endangered craft of Ahmedabad.
Afzal bhai, एक मिनट, आप बाद में बोलिए, वो बाद में आएगा. We had very few rehearsals, but this is the organic nature of things. But thank you, he's ready to do his part, as are everyone. So, on cajon, percussion, Mridangam, Sumesh Narayanan. On violin, Sayee Rakshith. On tabla, Debjit, Patitundi. On hand painting, Sunil, Chitara. On Appliqué, Vanita, Kartik, Chauhan. And on mirror embroidery, Sharmishtha Patel. We'll start, and you'll hear from everyone here on stage about process, about what makes them do what they do. But before we do start, I just want to thank a few more people. Kavita Patel, without whom none of this really would happen. Thank you so much for being the support that you are. And of course, to the staff here at Natarani, at Darpana, thank you so much for having us. On sound, Goutam Bose. And now, Afzal Lalbhai on block printing.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Afzal Lalbhai, and my craft is Saudagari hand block printing craft, one of the endangered craft of Ahmedabad. My father's great-great-grandfather over 100 years ago started this craft in Ahmedabad, Jamalpur. ये क्राफ्ट जो है अभी जो है कोई कर नहीं रहा है और इसे हम लोग रिवाइव करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, बट कुछ इनोवेशन लाके कि इसे यंग जनरेशन एज अ फैशन एक्सेप्ट करे और ये क्राफ्ट को आगे बढ़े ये क्राफ्ट, और लोग एज अ फैशन के तौर पे इसको पहने, ऐसे साड़ी के तौर पे जैसे मैंने कुर्ता बना के पहना है ऐसे एक्सेप्ट करें इस क्राफ्ट को, क्योंकि ये जैसे अजरक का ब्लॉक प्रिंटिंग है ऐसे यही अहमदाबाद का पुराना ब्लॉक प्रिंटिंग है, जैसे कच्छ में अजरक ब्लॉक पेंटिंग से पहचाना जाता है, तो हमारा यही मिशन है कि अहमदाबाद भी सौदागरी हैंड ब्लॉक पेंटिंग के नाम से पहचाना जाए। बस हमारा यही मिशन है और यही मेहनत हमारी चल रही है। अभी ये इनिशियल स्टेज पे हम लोग आ चुके हैं। थैंक यू सो मच।
अफजल भाई, आप थोड़ा एक करके दिखाइए, उसका साउंड सुनना है हमें। I'll ask Sumesh to introduce the first piece.
Thank you, Soumik. A lot can be said about finding music in nature, and I'm sure all of us will talk for years on that subject. When you lie down in the night and you hear the fan going in a certain rhythm, keeps me up all night thinking about what I can do with that rhythm. A lot can be said about finding melody in nature, and you'll see some following this piece. And one of the first things that you notice when an artist like Afzal Bhai sits down with his blocks and his fabric, laying down patterns, is the sound that is created by striking on that block of wood. I'm going to be doing something very similar. What I'm sitting on is a block of wood as well. This is called the cajon. It's a hollow box made out of wood with a very soft membrane in the front, and that enables me to create sounds like this. Pretty cool, huh? And two of the most characteristic sounds that I can get out of this cajon is very basic, but a lot can be done with it. One is a very low bass tone, which I get by striking on the middle of the membrane. And one is a high sound, which is what we call the snare. And so this piece that we're going to be opening the show with is heavily inspired by the sounds, the rhythm, and the patterns of the block print. This one's called Departures.
din knock, din knock, din knock, din knock, din knock. Din knock, 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 din knock.
Afzal Chakchaktawala on block printing, thank you. We come to Sharmishtha Di. Aapka mic on hai? On hai. Hello. Can you hear her? No.
Hello.
Ah. She said hello, guys. Thank you, thank you. तो आप बताइए मिरर एम्ब्रॉयडरी का खासियत क्या है और आप कहाँ सीखे?
जी, मेरा नाम शर्मिष्ठा पटेल है। मेरा क्राफ्ट है हैंड मिरर वर्क एम्ब्रॉयडरी। मैंने एक क्राफ्ट मेरी नानी से सीखा है। जैसे मिरर वर्क आईने का नाम है, भारत में सबसे पहले खूबसूरत पुरानी कलाओं में से एक है। इसकी परंपरा लगभग 700 साल पुरानी है। इस कला की शुरुआत कच्छ, गुजरात कच्छ और सौराष्ट्र में क्षेत्र में हुई थी, जहाँ महिलाएं कपड़े में छोटे छोटे आईने लगाकर उसके चमक देती। ये सिर्फ सजावट नहीं, बल्कि इसमें छिपी है स्त्री की मेहनत, उसकी पहचान और उसकी परंपरा की झलक। आज भी मिरर वर्क उसी रौनक के साथ जीवित है। हम मिरर वर्क मिनिमम टाइम छोटे मिरर का 10 मिनट से लेके आधे घंटे तक का एक मिरर का क्राफ्ट का टाइम लगता है, जो हम मिरर वर्क ड्रेस में बना सकते हैं, उसके ऐसे स्ट्रसल्स बना सकते हैं, या आप ज्वेलरी में भी यूज़ कर सकते हैं। और ये मेरा क्राफ्ट है, मुझे मेरे क्राफ्ट से बहुत प्यार है। आई लव माई हैंड वर्क मिरर वर्क।
Is anyone wearing any mirror work in the audience today? Look at what you're wearing. No? Yes, one. Yes, one person. Okay. Oh, so if you were the back as well. Okay, lovely. और ये मिरर के साथ ये जो रिलेशनशिप है आपका,
हाँ
आपको क्यों पसंद है ये चीज़?
मुझे मिरर में ऐसे रंग बिरंगी धागों से बनता है तो उसमें एक जान आ जाती है।
क्या बात है? I'll ask Sayee to introduce the next piece.
The way that this piece came out, it was a special process by itself, because I think this is the first time we're going to be performing this piece. It's the first time we created the piece thinking about mirror work and different things. So as we were thinking, I think one of the main characteristics that you see is all of these tiny mirrors. Each of them reflect light, they reflect your face sometimes, but very different things, and it keeps changing. You move a little, the perspective changes, right? And then the colors change. There's the reflection of colors. Then there's also a certain stillness to it, which is very interesting because it's all still, but your movement or whatever you do changes perspective, changes light, and the whole image shimmers. So based out of this, I think that's where we came up with the inspiration for this piece called Shimmer, where the melodic notes keep moving, but they are inside this pulse that seems very constant, similar to the way that Sharmita ji is, constantly needling through the cloth and stitching the mirror in, so presenting to you Shimmer.
Thank you. That was a piece called Shimmer. It's the first time we played it. Ever since I was a kid, I loved, my parents would take me to sort of museums and I would love looking at paintings and drawings. But when I discovered that people could wear paintings and drawings, it kind of blew my mind, and I never realized how, well no, I only just realized that how crazy it is that we don't celebrate it more. We're wearing pieces of art that normally live in buildings that are locked up at night. They become part of our bodies, they become part of our houses, and people recognize that we like this piece, this color, and they attach it to our personalities. And so yes, hand painting on clothes that we wear, how beautiful is that? So I'd like to introduce to you Sunil Chitara. नहीं on नहीं है इनका mic. Hello बोलो.
Hello.
Can you hear? No. More.
हेलो ये 700 साल पुरानी क्राफ्ट है जो मातानी पचड़ी. मैंने ये क्राफ्ट जो सीखा मेरे फादर्स हैं, जो फादर्स ऑफ कलर फिलिंग और वो था, मुझे तब से सिखाया गया. और ये क्राफ्ट जो है जो जनरेशन बाय जनरेशन चलती आती है, ये रुकती नहीं है. ये क्राफ्ट में अभी 45 लोग हैं जो क्राफ्ट करते हैं, और कुछ जो लोग हैं ये क्राफ्ट को छोड़ रहे हैं क्योंकि उसका रीज़न है कि उनको पता नहीं है कि उनके बाप दादा कैसे काम करते थे. उन्होंने फिर अभी मेरा एक विज़न भी है कि 1 साल में इतने क्राफ्टमैन को जो मेरे क्राफ्ट है जो छोड़ गए उसको वापस भी लाना है. तो अभी तक मैंने 1 साल में 4 लोग को वापस से क्राफ्ट में लाया है, और उनको इतना पता भी नहीं कि उसका प्रोसेस क्या है. तो उसका प्रोसेस जो है, जो ये बनता है तो पूरा नेचुरल कलर है, उसका कलर भी फिक्स है, रेड और ब्लैक. जैसे कि रेड जो है गुजरात में जो किसी के घर जाते तो जैसे तिलक करते हैं तो रेड जो है उसको शुभ माना जाता है, और ब्लैक जो है वो एकदम वाइब्रेंट, जो आपको दिख रहा है तो वाइब्रेंट कलर दिख के आता है. तो जो ब्लैक कलर जो बनता है वो लोहा और गुड़ से बनता है, और जो रेड कलर जो है वो एलम से बनता है, और ब्लैक कलर लोहा और गुड़ से बनता है. और जो ये काम है, जो हमारी आस्था और भावना जो उसमें जुड़ी हुई है, ये मातानी पछेड़ी, जो मातानी पछेड़ी मीन्स जो मंदिर के पीछे लगती है. ये जो काम है मुग़ल शासन में, जैसे कि हिंदू के मंदिर तोड़े जाते थे और उनको धर्म के लिए दबाव करते थे, तो तब जाके हमारे कम्युनिटी के लोग ने जंगलों में जाके फिर मातानी पछड़ी क्रिएट किया. ये मातानी पछड़ी सिर्फ कपड़े पे रेड और ब्लैक कलर से ही बनती है, और मैं ये 11 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ, और मुझे भी काफ़ी अच्छा लग रहा है अंदर से कि ये काम है, हमारे परदादा ने इतना छोड़ा है तो हमको भी और अच्छा लगता है करने में. थैंक यू.
क्या बात. Thank you, Sunil. Artisans are keeping the history and heritage of this country alive, and we are wearing it. I wish we could wear music in that way, but we can't. But we can respect the time and the dedication that goes into these traditions around us. What is the difference between an artist and an artisan? Why is it that in this society we celebrate celebrities, celebrate influencers now, people who are already famous? Why don't we celebrate the keepers of heritage? And somewhere the answer is in class divisions, in the fact that we are more than happy to marginalize certain people while feeling cushioned by feeling soft about being okay with celebrating celebrities. So does one size really fit all? I think the answer is no, unless you make it somehow. I was really inspired by the way Sunil Bhai just sits there and dabs his pen to the ink, which is made with rust and then metal, and it's made from natural things, and someday someone will wear this, and it's made from bits of Gujarat and bits of Bengal and bits of this country, and it's from the earth and it's from the trees, and they will wear it. It will be part of them. And it's deeply inspiring to see the immersion that craftsmen discover through their work. And so this next piece tries to reflect that, tries to reflect the single-minded, focused concentration that a hand painter would need to complete his work. This piece is called Immersion. Thank you. And then when the piece has been worked on for days and weeks and months, and it's starting to take shape, starting to fill out, there's less room on the cloth, something emerges. वनीता जी कैसे हैं आप? बढ़िया. माइक ऑन है आपका?
नहीं आ रही है? आई अभी आ रही.
हाँ अभी आई. हेलो हेलो.
हेलो, नमस्ते जी. मेरा नाम वनीता चौहान है. मैं एप्लिक वर्क का काम करती हूँ. ये काम मुझे किसी ने सिखाया नहीं है. जब मैं छोटी थी तब मेरी मम्मी सिलाई काम करती थी तो मुझे देख देख कर मुझे सिलाई करना आ गया. जब शादी हुई और शादी के बाद मैंने ये काम स्टार्ट ही रखा और मुझे मालूम नहीं था कि इस काम की वजह से मुझे आगे जाके इतनी बड़ी प्रसिद्धि मिलेगी. मुझे 2018 में इस काम की वजह से नेशनल अवार्ड मिला हुआ है और आगे जाकर स्टेट अवार्ड भी मिलने वाला है. ये काम मैं अकेले नहीं कर रही हूँ. मेरे साथ बहुत सारी लेडीज़ है ये काम कर रही हैं. मैंने अपनी खुद की फाइन पैचवर्क की प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी भी की हुई है. उसमें हजारों की संख्या में जो बहनें हैं वो काम करती है. हम जैसे छोटे छोटे स्पेडर्स बनाते हैं और उसको अलग अलग डिज़ाइन बनाकर उसको मार्केट में सेल करते हैं.
Thank you. What I found fascinating about applique and patchwork is that it's all recycled. It's little bits of this and that that is put together. And look at this thing that she's made, this incredible pattern, this piece of art that's sitting right next to her. I'm going to ask Debjit to introduce this piece inspired by patchwork and applique.
Our next musical presentation is highly inspired from Appliqué. I would like to say that before coming onto the stage, Vanita ji was telling me that the stool I'm using today, this is actually Appliqué. I didn't know that. And I have been using this stool for the last 5-6 years, but nobody told me. But this is such an opportunity to know this. जैसे कि मैं बोलना चाहता हूँ कि ऐसे बहुत सारे चीज़ें हैं जो हम लोग रोज़ पहनते हैं लेकिन हम लोगों को पता नहीं है कि वो क्या है, उसका नाम क्या है. कि आज जैसे कि मुझे पता चला कि दिस इज़ एप्लीके, दिस इज़ पैचवर्क. जैसे कि आप पैचवर्क आप देखेंगे तो एक बेस जो क्लॉथ है उसके ऊपर डिज़ाइन बनाया जाता है. तो वैसे ही हम लोग म्यूजिशियंस हैं तो हम लोग उसका इंटरप्रिटेशन कुछ उसी हिसाब से करते हैं. जैसे कि सुमेश बोल रहे थे कि बीइंग अ रिदम प्लेयर वी ऑलवेज think about the rhythms that be it a fan or be it our pulse, whatever. So, yes, auto diction. That's annoys, but sometimes we find rhythms there. But yeah, so in this piece we try to play. There are two pieces of cloths, two pieces of musical interpretation from that piece of art. The first is Soumik Datta and me will be playing 11-bit cycle, and let's hear it, then I will come back to the next piece.
What are we playing?
11.
11. A cloth in 11.
Yeah, the cloth is 11.
Okay.
Musical cloth will be playing by Sumesh and Sayee. Let's see, this is 9-bit cycle. these two pieces come together and creates a wonderful musical piece which is named Carousel.
Thank you so much. Do you want one more, or should we call that a night? So I'm sure you've been curious about this lovely space right in the middle of the stage and what is going to happen here. So I'd like to invite someone very special out to join us for one last piece. Avni Varia, please put your hands together. We met Avni yesterday and learnt about the joys of wool and spinning and no words really. I think the words are all yours. Avni, would you like to speak to everyone?
Namaskar, Ahmedabad. આઈ થિંક શરૂઆતમાં ઓડિયન્સમાં જ્યારે બધા આવતા હતા ને ત્યારે મને અત્યારે બેક સ્ટેજ એવું જ લાગતું હતું કે હું તો ઘરમાં જ બેસવાની છું, કારણ કે આમાંથી લગભગ 50% લોકો મને મારા પપ્પાના લીધે ઓળખે છે. એટલે મારા માટે આજનો દિવસ આ સ્ટેજ પર જે સ્કિલ હું બતાવવા જઈ રહી છું કે પ્રેઝન્ટ કરી રહી છું, એક બહુ જ ગર્વનો દિવસ છે. કારણ કે હંમેશા ત્યાં બેસતા નટરાનીમાં એક તો પૈસા ના હોય ને પાસ ના મળે તો નટરાનીમાં ના જવા મળે તો એટલું દુઃખ પણ થતું, પણ જ્યારે જ્યારે પાસ મળે, જ્યારે જ્યારે એક મોકો મળે કે ત્યાં બેસાય અને આજે બેક સ્ટેજ આ બધું સાંભળ્યું અને થોડી વાર પરસેવો થાય ઊભા ઊભા, એટલે એમ થાય કે બેસીને અંદર જતી રહું. પણ બેક સ્ટેજ ચાંદો જોતા જોતા જે મેં આ માણ્યું છે, આઈ થિંક નટરાણીમાં બેસવું, આ સ્ટેજ પર બેસવું એ આઈ એમ બ્લેસ્ડ ટુડે. થેન્ક યુ ટુ રિવર સ્ટુડિયો એન્ડ મલ્લિકાબેન એન્ડ નટરાની ટીમ. મારું નામ અવની વરિયા છે અને બાય બર્થ આઈ એમ અ પોટર. તો પોટરી હજી ફૂલ ટાઈમ પ્રેક્ટિસ નથી કરી શકી. Maybe it's my dream. Today what I'm presenting here is hand spinning. જે બધા મને ઘણી વાર પૂછે કે વળી ચરખો ચલાવવાનું તો કેમ મન થયું, એટલે I think I would say that I have not called for it. ચરખા has come to me. અને જ્યારે હું 2012માં પેટી ચરખો જે હું તમને બતાડીશ, એ બહુ જ સ્ટ્રગલથી જાતે ને જાતે ઘણીવાર ફ્રસ્ટ્રેટ થઈને શીખી. ત્યારે મને યાદ આવ્યું કે આ ચરખો તો મને 2009માં કોઈએ કચ્છમાં આપ્યો હતો કે આનું તો તું કંઈક કરીશ. અને આજે 12 વર્ષ પછી 2 ઓક્ટોબર 2013માં પોચરબમાં એક બાળક બુદ્ધિ કહેવાય એ રીતે વિચાર્યું હતું કે ચાલો ચરખો રમીએ. આપણે મેં જે શીખ્યું છે એ મારે બધાને આપવું છે. અને એ સમયે મને યાદ છે કે હેન્ડલૂમ રિવાઇવલ ઉપર ઘણું બધું ભારતમાં થઈ રહ્યું હતું અને મારું જેવું મન છે કે મારું જેવો વિચાર શક્તિ છે એ હંમેશા થોડી એનાથી ઊંધી કે આગળ કે પાછળ ફરે. એ વખતે મેં એવું વિચાર્યું કે બધા હેન્ડલૂમ રિવાઇવલની વાત કરે છે કે હેન્ડલૂમમાં વપરાતા દોરાની વાત કોણ કરે છે. અને આઈ થિંક એ વિચારથી મેં સ્પિનિંગ શીખ્યું. ઘણી બધી વાતો છે. યસ્ટરડે વેન આઈ વોઝ meeting the musicians and we were thinking what to do and how to do, and when I was showing them the spinning part, ત્યારે એમને મને પૂછ્યું છે, કીધું કે 3.5 મિનિટ બોલવાનું છે. એટલે મેં કીધું તમે મને કહેજો કે મારે ક્યાં રોકાવાનું, because it's a journey of 12 years and I'm very proud to say that જ્યારે શરૂ કર્યું ને ત્યારે બધા જ મને કહેતા હતા કે ગાડી છે, આને કંઈ કામ ધંધો છે નહીં, લંડનથી ભણીને આવ્યા અને બેંકમાં લોન ચાલે છે, કમાતી ધમાતી છે નહીં ને ચરખા લઈને ફરે છે. એટલે ઇટ્સ ઓકે, પણ આજે પણ લોકો એ જ કહે છે. સો અપાર્ટ ફ્રોમ માય પ્રોફેશનલ લાઈફ, આઈ વુડ જસ્ટ લાઈક ટુ સ્પીક અબાઉટ સ્પિનિંગ ટુડે. કે જાતે ચરખો શીખ્યો અને કોચરબ ગામમાં સોશિયલ સર્વિસ કરવા જતી ત્યારે કોચરબ આશ્રમ સાથે નાતો બંધાયો 2009-10માં. અને ત્યાં રમેશભાઈએ મને એકવાર કરીને બતાવ્યો હતો. મને કે બેન કોઈ શીખવાડવાવાળું તો છે નહીં. અને શીખ્યા પછી 1 વર્ષ પછી એવો વિચાર આવ્યો કે ચાલો ને ફેસબુક છે, ફ્રીમાં પ્રમોશન થશે તો એક પોસ્ટ મૂકી દઈશું, એક ઇવેન્ટ બનાવી દઈશું. ને કોચરાવાળાએ કીધું કે તમે ગાંધીજીનો જે પ્રાર્થનાનો ઓટલો છે તમને અમે ફ્રીમાં બેસવા દઈશું. એવી રીતે આ કાર્યક્રમ શરૂ થયો હતો, once in a month એટ કોચરબ આશ્રમ. અને આજે 12 વર્ષ પછી આઈ થિંક આઈ બીંગ અ ડિઝાઇન બેકગ્રાઉન્ડ, મને ડોક્યુમેન્ટેશનની ટેવ છે, એટલે 10 વર્ષ જ્યારે કાર્યક્રમને કમ્પ્લીટ થયા ત્યારે આઈ કેન પ્રાઉડલી સે કે 1 to 1 મેં લગભગ 1 લાખ લોકોને આખા ભારતમાં ચરખો અનુભવ કરાયો. એટલે એ મારી જર્ની છે. સ્પિનિંગ મને એવું લાગે કે ગઈકાલે જ જ્યારે હું આ લોકોને મળવા આવી ત્યારે જસ્ટ બિફોર કમિંગ હિયર હું મોડી પણ હતી. આઈ થિંક કવિતા વોઝ કોલિંગ મી કે વેર આર યુ, ઇટ્સ બીન ઓલમોસ્ટ 5 o'clock એન્ડ યુ હેવ ટુ રીચ હિયર બાય 3 o'clock. અને એક એવી સિચ્યુએશનમાંથી આવી હતી કે હું આવતા વખતે રડતા આવી હતી, પણ જ્યારે હું આ લોકોને ચરખો બતાવવા બેસી ત્યારે હું દુનિયા ભૂલી ગઈ હતી. એટલે આઈ થિંક દેટ ઇઝ વોટ ચરખા મીન્સ ટુ મી, અને દેટ ઇઝ વોટ આઈ વોન્ટ ટુ ગિવ ટુ ધ પીપલ ટુડે. ચરખાની વાત કરીએ એટલે બધા તરત ખાદીની વાત કરે કે ભાઈ આ દોરાનું શું થશે, પણ મને એવું લાગે કે અત્યારે પહેલાં આપણે આપણા પોતાને ઓળખીએ અને પોતાનું હેડ, હાર્ટ એન્ડ હેન્ડ્સનું ટ્યુનિંગ કરીએ તો ઘણું બધું થાય. એટલે શરૂઆતમાં તો જેમ મેં કીધું, once in a month I started showcasing ચરખા. I think a lot of people came together. ઘણા લોકો જોતા તો એ લોકો છાપામાં જ્યારે જોવે તો છાપું લઈને આવે. જે લોકો 60 years above હોય કે મને આવડે છે, મારે શીખવાડવું છે. કે ઘણા લોકો એવા પણ આવતા કે મને કોઈએ ગિફ્ટ કર્યો છે, મને તો આ ખોલતા પણ નથી આવડતું, એટલે તમે આ શરૂ કર્યું એ બહુ સારું કર્યું. ઘણા લોકો એવા પણ હતા કે બેન અમે some people who call themselves Gandhian કે અમે આ રોજ ચરખો ચલાવીએ છીએ અને આનું સૂતર ભેગું થાય છે, પણ હવે કરવું શું? Because there was a time in India when spinning was formally taught through KVIC, I think, and when you spin you can give the yarn to the khadi bhandar and get money, or you get fabric and pay for the weaving. So that's how the whole system was set. અને મને બહુ જ દુઃખ થયું જ્યારે મારી મમ્મી, હું આટલી બધી સ્ટ્રગલ કરી, પ્રોગ્રામ ચાલુ કર્યો અને પછી વર્ષ પછી મારા મમ્મી મને કહે કે આ તો અમને સ્કૂલમાં શીખવાડતા હતા. એટલે ત્યારે આપણને થાય કે લાઈક યોર પેરેન્ટ્સ વોન્ટ્સ યુ ટુ સ્ટ્રગલ, એન્ડ આઈ થિંક આઈ એમ બ્લેસ્ડ ફોર દેટ. સો બેકસ્ટેજ જ્યારે મને કોઈ કીધું તો મને ઇન્ટ્રોડક્શનમાં એવું કહેવાનું મન થયું હતું કે આઈ એમ અ ફર્સ્ટ જનરેશન હેન્ડ સ્પિનર, બટ નો, માય મધર knew it and probably her mother also knew it. So I come from a potter's family, but I think spinning has been part of my life now. I don't know what all I do because હમણાં જ કોઈએ મળ્યા ત્યારે કે તું તો બધે જ હોય એમ.
I think everyone is really waiting to see you spin.
Yes, yeah. Just last one thing. Because a lot of people see me as a person who is doing random things. A lot of people say કે તું તો આય કરે ને તું તો પેલું કરે. But I would like to say today to the world that I am so connected with handmade that anything handmade comes to me, it calls me, and I'm going to be like that. So I'd like to show you spinning with box charkha and spinning with takli.
Thank you. This is our last piece. Thank you for joining us. This is inspired by the wheel. This is inspired by someone who wanted to connect us all through thread and the wheel. In many ways, the spirit of this concert was to try and bring artists and artisans together and blur the lines between one and the other. So this is an untitled piece that swims through some music that you already know, and if you'd like to sing with us, then please do. Thank you so much.